Welcome to the weekly Go Buy Breece Hall video. I mean, here, how many times do I have to say it? But anyway, we will have some other running backs we can talk about in this video that I think are undervalued and maybe can save your roster if you were one of the unlucky souls that drafted Javonte Williams, Cordell Patterson, and are struggling for running back production right now. But before we get into it, make sure you go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. We just hit 128,000 subscribers. Thank y'all so much. I'm going to continue to go through live stream every single day, so just make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to be able to come out to our live streams and ask your questions. If you can't make it to a stream, just throw that question down there in the comment section. I'm going to be trying to answer as many of those as I can. Last but not least, this video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, where you can check out all these cool player props. And when you sign up for Underdog with the link in the description of the video and use promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So go deposit $20, have $40 in your account, go have some fun with those player props, or maybe get in a drive with us during the season. You know, we're doing them all the time on the live stream. That should be it. Let's dive into the guy we talk about every week. Let's go over to Breece Hall. Now with Breece Hall, if you don't have him on your team already, I'm assuming that you are a new member of the flock. I will keep it brief because we talk about him every week. Week 1, 45% of the snaps. Week 2, only 29%. Week 3, 54%. Week 4, 66%. So back-to-back weeks here where he's had over half of the snaps for the New York Jets, clearly taking over as that 3-down running back ahead of Michael Carter. We talked about this happening at the beginning portion of the season. We looked at what you saw with Nick Chubb his rookie season, Jonathan Taylor his rookie year. JT may be someone we're talking about later on in this video. But regardless, week 4, we can see it's happening already. 46 snaps compared to Michael Carter at 31. The man has significantly more carries. The man has significantly more targets. If we go through and look at the amount of target volume that Breece Hall has had, there have been weeks for the New York Jets here where Breece Hall, as a part-time player in this offense, has led this team in targets. He's a phenomenal. He's turning into one of the best passing down running backs in the NFL. Keep in mind, he is a part-time player. Keep in mind, he has a week with only 29% snaps played through the first 4 weeks here. So if he continues to expand his role, I think that this level of involvement in the receiving game is either going to stay the same or maybe get larger. And it's scary to think about that because as a part-time player, through the first 4 weeks, we tweeted this out. Here are the top 5 running backs in targets in the NFL. Numero uno, Austin Eckler. He's Eckler. What are you expecting? Yeah, no Keenan Allen. Of course he's going to be up here. Number 2, Breece freaking Hall. Only 2 targets fewer than Austin Eckler. 3 targets better than our next guy with Joe Mixon. Hell, Christian McCaffrey had 4. J.D. McKissic had 5. Breece Hall has the size to be a 3-down guy, was a workhorse in college, is an elite level athlete, is taking over as the starting running back, and most surprisingly, is turning into one of the best passing down running backs in the NFL. You should have drafted him. If you didn't draft him, you should have traded for him week 1. Maybe week 2. I mean, definitely week 3, definitely week 4. But go do it now. Go do it now if you haven't. Now going over to our next guy, someone else that has made probably 3 buy low videos in a row for us. A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon, I didn't like him coming into this season. Thought that A.J. Dillon was a very comparable running back to Kareem Hunt. He was going to be the secondary back in his offense, probably a little bit overdrafted, but clearly did have the elite level ceiling if the starter were to go down in front of him. But A.J. Dillon continues to have a larger role than you would assume. A.J. Dillon this past week against the New England Patriots goes through. He has 17 carries out of the backfield. He drew 2 targets as well. Now his usage in the receiving game is beginning to dwindle. He went from 6 targets to 3 targets, now to 2. So definitely that's going in the opposite direction. But if we're still looking at the volume so far between A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, I was all aboard the Aaron Jones hype train coming into the season, but I still think this is probably unsustainable here. A.J. Dillon, 57 carries so far this season, compared to Aaron Jones at 48. A.J. Dillon, 14 targets compared to Aaron Jones at 16. That's the number one surprise for me as someone who loved Aaron Jones coming into the year, is A.J. Dillon being neck and neck with targets. No idea that was going to happen. I figured the target breakdown was going to be like 25 targets, Aaron Jones, 6, 7, 8, 9 targets for A.J. Dillon. But despite the volume being very close, despite A.J. Dillon having 7 more touches so far this season than Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon 280 yards, Aaron Jones 408. I don't think this keeps up the entire season. I think if we trade for A.J. Dillon now, you're getting a low-end running back 2 that we can play during the bye weeks. And also, if Aaron Jones were to go down, you're getting a top 5 running back in fantasy. Very similar to what we were looking at with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, yes, we had him as a sell-high running back week 1, but I'm looking at him as the same guy he was week 1. People were over the moon about him then because he had 2 touchdowns 1 week. He had 11 carries. He had 4 targets out of the backfield. The role really hasn't changed over the past 3 weeks. The man's averaged so far this season about 11 to 12 carries per game. He's averaged about 3 to 4 targets per game as well. The roles remain the same. It's constant. Now, yes, Nick Chubb has been absolutely crushing it. But I think with Kareem Hunt, this is a running back that you would be able to start during the bye weeks as a low-end running back too. And if something were to occur to Nick Chubb in front of him, Kareem Hunt could become that top 5 running back. Now, going over to our next guy, we are going to have Alvin Kamara. With Kamara, we 100% need to monitor the injury reports. But to be honest with you, I am a little bit worried. I don't know how much these injury reports may matter if he's going out there and practicing and missing the London game. Like, what are we doing here, Kamara? At this point, I mean, people are way off of Alvin Kamara. So y'all know on Underdog, where we just told y'all can go check out those player props. Y'all have seen us get in those drafts during the season. We're doing it on the live stream pretty much every night. And if I pull up the ADP for Alvin Kamara at this point on Underdog, people are completely off of him. He's being drafted directly before James Robinson, Dameon Pierce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, J.K. Dobbs, all of those running backs. I would love to trade for Alvin Kamara. I would even throw in a small wide receiver to get the job done because I understand Alvin Kamara is very scary, dealing with the rib injury, disappointing week 1, disappointing week 3. But this past week, when you did see Alvin Kamara play in week 3, 15 carries, 7 targets, he had the exact role that we were looking for. And also, I don't know if we should expect Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston going forward, but if it is Andy Dalton, that's going to be pretty damn good for Alvin Kamara. Now, going over to someone that I wasn't a massive fan of in fantasy football drafts, but at this point, the hate has gone way too far. James Conner, he was on a buy low video for us last week. And the reason for this is if you're looking at James Conner, the usage is consistent. You have the exact role that you want for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the reason I didn't like him in fantasy drafts this season is because I thought the touchdowns were going to come way down. There was no way in hell he was going to continue to average a touchdown and a half per game. But with James Conner, if we remove week 2, he only had 7 carries. Remember, he left early with the ankle injury. If we just remove week 2, the man has had 38 carries through 3 weeks with being limited week 3. The same time, he's had 14 targets as well. So you're getting 4.5 targets a game from James Conner. You're getting 13, 14, 15 carries a game from James Conner. You're getting the exact role that you wanted. Now, it's been a little bit frustrating when he hasn't been efficient because this Arizona Cardinals offense has been horrendous. Arizona, Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury, this team's looked very bad, but we've already stressed this. You are going to have the Arizona Cardinals as a much better team when we get DeAndre Hopkins back in. So here's what I want to do. Don't trade for James Conner this week, but make sure week 6, you are sending out those pieces, seeing what the price point is for James Conner. Because I'd imagine he is going to struggle, and this entire offense will struggle against a very good Philadelphia Eagles defense this week. But long-term, when we get Hopkins back in, if we look at the historical splits with and without DeAndre Hopkins for Kyler Murray, I think Kyler Murray's play will elevate. I think that will elevate the entire offense. But now, let's go over to DeAndre Swift, another player that is dealing with an injury very similar to Alvin Kamara. Now, here with DeAndre Swift, to be honest with you, I would probably be surprised if he plays this week, knowing that the Detroit Lions have a week 6 bye. So maybe you don't want to trade for DeAndre Swift this week, but if we could approach a team that just lost Javonte Williams, has DeAndre Swift on the roster, or maybe they lost David Montgomery and have DeAndre Swift on the roster. Maybe they drafted Travis Etienne and have DeAndre Swift on the roster. I mean, if we can go approach one of those teams that are desperate for a running back right now, go, hey man, I will trade you this running back X, like say Jamal Williams, and I'll throw in a wide receiver like DJ Moore. Give me DeAndre Swift. We want the long-term upside here. I think that'd make a lot of sense if we were looking at this Detroit Lions offense. This Detroit Lions team is probably considered a train wreck. I mean, this looks to be one of the worst defenses in the NFL. But right now, the Detroit Lions, despite giving up the most points in the NFL, they're still a team that I want because they have scored the most points in the NFL. They're getting into these shootouts. We saw it this past week with none of their weapons going up against the Seattle Seahawks. They still dropped 45 points. They have an elite offensive line. DeAndre Swift is getting involved as a passing down running back. So here are these scenarios. We want to be trading for DeAndre Swift. We're going to be trading for DeAndre Swift if we are 4-0 or 3-1, and we can look at that long-term upside he'll give us in the fantasy football playoffs. We want to be trading for DeAndre Swift if we are in a position where we can sacrifice some current running back production now to get that long-term upside. We want to be trading for DeAndre Swift maybe on the opposite end in 2 weeks when people are very far off of him after probably he doesn't play week 5. He rests week 6 with a bye, and then he's 100% healthy coming back already through his bye week in week 7. So very similar to James Conner. Maybe you're not trading for DeAndre Swift right this second, but maybe you can trade for him at a severe discount 2 weeks from now. Now going over to our last running back. I mean, we opened up last week's video saying, oh, okay, well, if you can trade for Justin Jefferson, trade for Devontae Adams, trade for Jamar Chase, at a 10% discount, we're doing it. It's crazy to say that you are ever able to trade for these studs because if your league mates know what they're doing, they're not panicking. They're going to be holding on tight to those guys. Well, based on the amount of questions I've seen in the comment section, based on the amount of questions I have seen in these YouTube live streams, people are panicking on Jonathan Taylor. Now, y'all know I was not a fan of Matt Ryan coming into the season. I said maybe he was a slight upgrade over Carson Wentz, but it's not like we can look at the efficiency of what he had in Atlanta a year ago and say Matt Ryan, based on the fact that they only had to give up a 3rd-round pick to get him, is going to be some great quarterback coming into Indianapolis. I wasn't a big fan of Michael Pittman. I mean, I still was drafting Jonathan Taylor at 1 overall. However, please stop panicking with JT. I get it. This past week, 20 carries, 42 rushing yards. The week before, 21 carries, 71 rushing yards. The week before, 9 carries, 54 rushing yards. The Indianapolis Colts have been horrendous. I mean, the most points they've scored this season has been 20. They've scored 17, 20, 0, and 20. It's scary, but at the end of the day, nothing fundamental has changed with Jonathan Taylor. This is still a running back that last year averaged 19.5 carries per game and 3 targets per game. This season, he has averaged 20 carries a game and 4 targets per game. The workload, the volume is the exact same for Jonathan Taylor as it was a year ago. The overall offense is significantly worse, and I'm not a big Matt Ryan guy, but I do think that Matt Ryan maybe get a little bit better than he has been. I mean, this is embarrassing, tying to the Houston Texans, just not being competitive in really any game but the Kansas City Chiefs won. I think that this offense does get better. Can't really get worse. Jonathan Taylor's still an elite level running back. He still has the volume. Dealing with an ankle injury, I'm hoping that Jonathan Taylor does not play this week. Short week going up against the Broncos on Thursday night. Please, Jonathan Taylor, rest. Come back in week 6. Please come back in week 6. But if you could get a 10% discount on him, it is something we're going to look to do. But now that's all I got for you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, if you did, go down there, drop that like, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out to our live streams, or just feel free to ask them down there in the comment section below. But thank you again. I do appreciate you. I hope you have a great day. Hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight.